choosing where to give. We're going to talk about that in 3 different ways. This month, the month of September, is about service. We dedicate our time, talent, treasure, and expertise to the healthy and joyful evolution of our spiritual community, the community in which we live, and the greater community of the world. That is our intention for the month of September. And so where we choose to give. So first of all, where we choose to give can be as simple as, how do you show up in the world? Are you walking your talk? So if you are coming to this spiritual community and you believe that we are a community creating unconditional love, do you show up as unconditional love in the world? Or do you sometimes forget? And we have an opportunity to practice all the time. So I am going to share, because my husband said you are going to tell him about what happened yesterday. And I said, I don't think it really fits, but it kind of does. So how do you show up when you're a minister and you're telling people, oh, be nice, go to prayer first? You get an opportunity to practice that. And as I was sitting, listening to Sarah sing, and I love that song, We Are One. So the fact that how we show up, if you listen to the words of that song, is really important, because energetically how we show up is affecting everybody around us. So the first thing that actually happened was on Friday, and Makasha comes and waters on Friday, and she hoses down my car for me. And she said to me, oh, your car has a new owie. And I went, no, it doesn't. My car doesn't have any owies whatsoever. What are you talking about? And somebody had backed into the front of my car and put a dent in the bumper and didn't bother to tell me. And as I was sitting there running that through my head, I remembered I didn't get angry. And I say that, and some of you are like, well, why would you? Well, if you'd known me 16 years ago, or maybe a year ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, I would have been really angry. Like, how dare you hit my car? How dare you hit my car and not put like a little notice on the windshield? How rude. All about them and the fact that you've damaged my property. How dare you? But I didn't react. And I remember thinking I was kind of proud of myself. So there's that ego thing. So then yesterday, I got this beautiful dining. I love how the universe works. I got this amazing dining room table for our living room. It is gorgeous. It looks like it belongs there. And I got it at an auction. It's a Drexel Heritage. I got 6 chairs. I got it for under $200. So I was just like, every time I'd come from downstairs and I'd walk into the living room and see it, I'd go, my dining room looks amazing. That was at 11:45. I kept saying that every time I came downstairs. And then at 4:30, I walked out of my house to go pick up my husband. And I said to Karen, my car's not here. And this is cute. I don't even know if she remembered saying it. She goes, really? And I'm like, it's a Jeep and it's black. I would know if it was sitting here. My car's not here. So I thought it had been stolen. So I, after I, kind of went, and I called the police. And here's the other funny thing. So I didn't always react well, just so you know. So she said, he'll call you back. He'll call you back from a restricted number. My cell phone says I will not accept restricted numbers. So he called me 4 times, and I'm like looking at my phone, kind of like screaming at it. It's the phone's fault. Not knowing how to undo that little thing. So then I thought, take a breath, go online, figure out how to unblock that. After I'd already called 911, almost in tears, like, I can't talk to the policeman. We'll send him to the house. So called my husband, posted on Facebook to the practitioners. Somebody has decided without my permission to drive my car. Please hold my car in prayer and know that it was returned to me quickly. Then the police show up. And I'm sitting on the couch and they're asking me a bunch of questions, and he's got, this thing in his ear, and he's talking to somebody. He goes, we impounded your car. And I went, why would you impound my car? He goes, it was abandoned. I said, it wasn't abandoned. It was parked right outside my house. How could it be abandoned? So then he thought, well, maybe before I say anything more, I should find out the details of why we impounded her car. My car did go for a drive by itself, literally, without anybody else in it. I live on a hill in Kent called Titus, and it literally is a hill that you have to put your car in first gear to get up. And my car was in gear, but it wasn't in first gear, it was in second gear, and the handbrake was on. And the cross street at the bottom of Titus is Central Avenue. So if you've ever been in Kent, this is a very busy street. If you live in Seattle, this would be like your car coming across Aurora. My car decided to come down the hill and for whatever reason took a sharp left-hand turn. Now it's backwards, understand, it's coming down the hill backwards. Took a left turn and backed into a rock wall. Did not hit anybody, nor did it get hit by anybody else. I'm glad you all think this is funny. But thank you for that, because energetically I need that laughter, because I was having a tough time. So it was abandoned at the bottom of the hill by itself. It's grounded now, just so you know. There's no driving for you. The back of the car is fairly damaged. What the tow truck driver said was, you're very lucky about the tire because it stopped the whole back end from pushing into the back seat. And he said, I don't know why it took the turn. Because if it hadn't taken the turn, it would have shot across Central and it could have caused a major accident. And so what I realized with all of that, even though emotionally I'm still kind of on a roller coaster ride, and there's a financial obligation that has to be met now because I have a deductible on my insurance, I still did not freak out like I would have before. But I am done now, so no more examples. So I was like, I'm not saying that out of ego, I'm just saying that I have gotten better about walking my talk. I have gotten better about how I show up. Is there space for improvement? Absolutely. Absolutely. And yet I've gotten better. And so for me, it was like, oh God, 3. What else could possibly happen? In my kitchen, we have an old house built in 1905, and in the kitchen there was this huge bubble light made of lead glass with a really sharp point on it. Evidently at midnight last night, it decided to unhook itself from the ceiling, fall on the kitchen floor, and spread glass everywhere. I didn't know that till this morning when my husband said, yeah, the light fixture in the kitchen broke. I'm like, really, when? He goes, last night at midnight. I'm like, did you clean it up? He goes, yeah. He got out of bed, went downstairs, cleaned it all up, climbed back into bed, went back to sleep. I didn't hear a word or a sound. And I think that's your emotions. But how do you show up? And I was proud of myself that I asked the practitioner body for prayer. 2, that I can laugh about it. There was a time in my life this would not have been funny. And had you laughed, you would have got the wrath of the minister. Well, I wouldn't have been a minister then. You would have got the wrath of Gayle, because I really wouldn't have thought it was funny. And now it's like, the only thing that happened last night when I was laying in bed was running through my mind what could have happened. What if it hadn't have taken that turn? What if somebody would have been standing on the sidewalk? That made me physically nauseous. And then to hear Christine S. this morning read from Eric Butterworth, worry is a prayer. So what I can tell you when she read that was, here was my concern every time I parked that car. And it would do that little jerk because it was on a hill. And I would think, someday, this car could roll down the hill. Every time I parked it. Do not believe that you do not have power in your words, because you do. And if you're really that worried, I should have put something under the tire, because I thought about it and I didn't. And so it reminds me how powerful our thoughts can be. And so walking our talk, how are you showing up in the world? How are you presenting yourself? And not looking at, it's very easy to look at, oh, this religious body, and they say this, and then they go out and do this. None of us gets a pass, in my opinion. Maybe the Dalai Lama. Most of us are more human than we are spiritual. And so we forget sometimes that how we show up really matters. It really matters that we go to prayer first, that we reach out to our community and say, this has happened and I need prayer. That's what Genesis Family is for. It's for a lot of things. You know, we wish people happy birthday there. We talk about our events. And if you need prayer for something, great place to post a prayer request. Great place to post a prayer request. And so how are you walking your talk? How are you being spiritual and human at the same time? Because we're here and that's what we're doing. And when we blow up at things that, you know, all of that energy of anger and spewing whatever, it goes out. And it does affect people around us. And we may not know we're affecting them. They may not know we're affecting them. And yet it does. And so how are you showing up? Are you willing to take that breath and instead of going to WTF, going to, who do I contact for prayer? Who can I text message? Who can I call on the phone? What do I do? Because right now I'm a mess. And that's a choice we get to make in a nanosecond. In a nanosecond. So how are you walking your talk? That's how you give. The other way to choose to give is, how do you give to your spiritual community? How do you give, in this case, to Genesis? Your time, your talent, your treasure. And are you doing it from a place of, this is my home, this is my spiritual community, this is a place I want to see grow and prosper? Because I will stand up here and say, and I know that the board may take a breath, but I know they'll support me. If you are ever giving from a place of lack, I can't do this, but I know I'm supposed to, don't. Don't give from a place of lack consciousness. Give from a place of joy and loving, because it's energy. And what you put into that basket on Sunday matters. It matters to me. It matters to this community. And I'm not talking about the amount. I am talking about the energy that you attach to the cash or the check or the credit card. That's what matters. Are you giving from a place of, I love this community and I want it to expand and grow, and I want to expand and grow? Because remember, as we give, so do we receive. And this is your community. And the more people here, the more we expand, the more we grow, the more we get to do in the world. And that's what excites me. So I want to share a story about Edwene Gaines out of her book, 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, because I think she talks about it much clearer. She was a ministerial student at Unity with a lot of other ministerial students, and when she got to the place of homiletics, which if you don't know what that means, homiletics is classes you take as a ministerial student that give you some tips on how to talk in front of people, how to present, how to look, and all kinds of different things, and then most of us ignore it once we graduate. But it's a good opportunity to learn some tips. You always have to be yourself, as Bernie and I talk about a lot. You have to be yourself. But she, they said, go out and, tap into the Unity places and find places to practice. And so she went out like all the other ministerial students and like, you want me to come and talk on Sunday? And nobody was saying yes. She was amazed. She got high grades in this class. She was a top-notch speaker. What do you mean you don't want me to come talk? How dare you? She got kind of ruffled. And I remember reading it in the book that one of the people and I think it was her mentor, said something to the effect of maybe talking less and working a little more. And so what she decided to do was she found a Unity church, and she walked in, and instead of saying to the minister, hey, I'm amazing, and you obviously want me to speak here, what she said was, what is it I can do for you? How can I serve? She mopped floors. She cleaned up the children's room after Sunday services. She never complained about it. In fact, it started to bring her joy the more she did it. And she never asked for anything in return. She just showed up and gave, and gave, and gave. And then one day, the senior minister called and said, Edwene, I have laryngitis. Would you come and speak for me this Sunday? Now here's the kicker. I forgot to say at the beginning, she wasn't looking to speak on a Sunday. She was actually looking just to teach a class, to speak in front of a class. So the gift she got back was bigger than she could have ever imagined. And that is the process of how do you give to your spiritual community? Are you giving out of a sense of I have to? Are you giving out of a sense of what's in it for me? Are you giving out of a sense of there's got to be a rate of return here? She keeps talking about things come back to me tenfold. Whoopee. Because sometimes we do that, and it's not intentional. Again, it's that human element. It's that humanness within us. And so can you start to give whatever that is, however that looks like to you? Can you do that from a sense of just pure joy? I am doing this for me because it makes me happy. And when I talk about Cindy Woodall, who's going to be leaving next Sunday, if you want to see somebody that just gives out of pure joy, follow her around. She never asks for anything in return. She has no expectation whatsoever other than she just likes to be here at Genesis. And as long as she's here, what can I do? What can I do to help? That's the kind of giving and receiving, because what I promise you is the more you give, you will receive. You will, and it will show up in amazing ways in your life that you may not even be prepared for. I'm still waiting for the pony after the car wreck. Remember, there's a pile of poo. There must be a pony in there. And I know that pony's going to show up. I don't see it today, and yet I know that there's good in this. And the first good came from Christine S. when we were praying, when she said, boy, the universe really takes care of you. Because that accident could have been really ugly. Somebody could have been standing in my kitchen when that light fell. So those are just being grateful for what is. And then the last way to give is by receiving. Graciously receiving. And so the story I want to share to you about that is from Mark Nepo. He talks about when he was in college, and he was going to college somewhere in the South, and his grandmother happened to live in Miami. And his grandmother said, I want you and your friends on spring break to come and see your Nana in Florida. And his parents were like, no, you can't do that to her. That's taking advantage of your grandmother. You're not going to Miami during spring break with the, like pretending you're going to see your grandmother. They got into really big arguments about it, and he decided to go anyway, knowing that there really was nothing he could give his grandmother, he thought. Nothing he could give his grandma. And so he shows up. They called when they hit Florida, not realizing, as young people do, how long Florida was. So they called and said, oh, we're in Florida. And they got there at 3 a.m. Pulled up in front of her place. The bellhop was waiting for them, and so was this grandma. And she'd rented them a room just down the hall from her so they could be close. And she just loved that these 4 boys walked with her through, her little center, and one on each arm. She said she felt like a queen. And then he spent a day walking on the beach with her, and she told him all the stories of her life, all the things that she could remember that had happened to her. And he realized that really what he had given was of himself. That all she wanted was to spend time with her grandson before she left the planet. So sometimes we give by saying, yes, I'll take that gift. Yes, thank you. How many of you have been given gifts and the first thing out of your mouth is, oh no, I can't possibly accept this. Come on, I'm not the only one. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, And so I want you to think the next time that happens, what you're saying is, if we believe here, each one of us is God in form. You have just said no to the universe. I'm not good enough. Give that to somebody else. Say yes. People give because they want to give. They give because it brings them joy. And the heartbreaking thing that can happen is when somebody tries to give you something and you don't want to receive because you don't know how. Smile, say yes, and thank you. It's easy. Yes, and thank you. So let's just take a moment before we close to pray. And so knowing right here and right now that there's that one life, it's God's life, it's my life, it's your life, and it is perfect and it is good. It is that place that we get to stand and say, use me. It is that knowingness that as we give, we do receive in ways known and unknown to us, from sources unknown and known to us. So I know right here and right now for this community, for everyone here, that they listen to that call upon their heart that says, how I show up matters. Am I being a blessing to the world, or am I adding to the noise? And so it is from that yes that I know each one of us is a blessing to the world. And I know sometimes if we stumble or we forget, we pick ourselves up and say, yes. Yes, use me. I am a blessing to the world. That energy speaks volumes. And so from that place of knowing the truth of who we are, God in form, that we are connected in and through and as to it and to everything around us, from that place of knowing only unconditional love, I say blessings. Father, Mother, God, Spirit, blessings. Thank you for all of the opportunities for us to grow, for us to learn, for us to be who we have come here to be, as we create a community of unconditional love. With that, I turn these words over, knowing that as they are spoken, it is already so. It is complete. The universe has said yes. I can feel it from within. That vibration of good that is God. I let go, and together we say, and so it is. Namaste.